I'm Danielle, your host of the A Bridge to Motherhood podcast, the place where moms like you learn to thrive, not just survive through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. I'm a birth and postpartum doula and a mom of two who's been where you are. My first pregnancy was filled with so much excitement, but it was also marked by stress, anxiety, and fear of the unknown. I thought I had everything mapped out, but when postpartum hit, I realized how unprepared I was for the physical, emotional, and mental toll of motherhood. It was overwhelming, lonely, and nothing like I imagined. When I found out I was pregnant again, I knew I needed to approach things differently. I made it my mission to not only prepare for postpartum, but to prioritize myself in the process. That shift changed everything. Now I'm here to help you do the same. Whether you're navigating your first pregnancy, feeling buried under endless advice, or struggling to figure out what you actually need for postpartum, this podcast is your safe space. You'll find practical tips, honest conversations, and expert insights to help you feel informed, supported, and empowered through every stage of motherhood. If you're ready to feel confident, prepared, and truly supported in your motherhood journey, stick around. This is for you. Hello, and welcome back to the A Bridge to Motherhood podcast. I'm very excited for today's episode because we are going to be talking about boundaries and how important it is to set boundaries for a better postpartum experience. But I know this is a very hard topic because so many of us are people pleasers at heart, and it's really hard to set boundaries sometimes. And I think people can go almost too far the other way where they're almost rude in the way that they come across when they're speaking about their boundaries. So I'm trying really hard to find some middle ground here and discuss boundaries in a way that you feel good about setting them and that you can communicate them effectively and kindly. So the goal here is to help you set simple yet powerful boundaries that are crucial for maintaining your well-being and your happiness during your postpartum period. It's easy to feel so overwhelmed by everyone else's expectations for you and for wanting to see the baby and the constant demands of caring for a newborn at the same time. I'm going to share 3 practical boundaries every new mom can implement right away to protect your time, energy, and mental peace. As a postpartum doula and a mom of 2, I've seen how these boundaries can make a world of difference in helping moms feel more balanced and empowered in those early days. I think one of the hardest parts about the postpartum period is that everyone has advice, everyone has maybe some unsolicited opinions, and very well-meaning visitors who really want to come see the baby, but they don't understand that they're unintentionally putting a lot of pressure on you as a new mom to feel like you have to host people, or you feel like your house has to be clean before people can come over. You're worried about your baby getting sick, but then you're also trying not to offend your visitors. Many moms feel they have to say yes to everything to make everyone happy, but ultimately that's just not sustainable. Feeling guilty about setting boundaries or having a hard time saying no is very common. You are not alone in this. I myself tend to be a people pleaser, and just even in the last year or so, I feel like I've really found my voice in a lot of ways, and I'm hoping that this episode helps you feel like you can find your voice too and feel confident in the boundaries that you are setting. So let's jump into those boundaries that are so important for your well-being and your happiness in the postpartum period. The first one is protecting your rest. And this isn't just protecting it with other people, but this is a boundary even to set with yourself. Rest is a non-negotiable in the postpartum period. You have just delivered a baby. You are recovering from childbirth. as well as being up throughout the night caring for a baby. And your rest is so incredibly important. If you're constantly giving away your time or energy, you will burn out so quickly. Those first couple weeks can really feel like you're running on adrenaline. And actually, at the end of childbirth, you get a rush of adrenaline in your hormones. And I've noticed after both of my births, those first couple weeks, I feel pretty good as far as not feeling too tired. But as soon as that adrenaline runs out, oh man, you're exhausted. So really try to listen to your body and take the opportunity to rest when you can. Set the boundary of prioritizing rest whenever possible, even if it means saying no to others or adjusting your plans. You can tell family and friends that you're unavailable for visits at this time. You can ask for help if they are able to come and maybe do a load of laundry or hold the baby so that you can get a shower. Just be honest with and let them know that you need time to rest and heal. Sometimes having your spouse or your partner do this can be really good because it allows you to just sit back and care for the baby while they are holding that boundary firm with friends and family. Rest is not a luxury during this time, it's a necessity. And please don't feel like you have to entertain visitors or be on for people when they come over when you're exhausted. I talked about this in another podcast episode, but something I learned with my second postpartum was I would often just stay upstairs with the baby so that I could nurse freely. And if I felt comfortable with certain visitors coming upstairs, I would let my husband know and say, oh yeah, they can come up and sit with me and chat with the baby. But otherwise, I learned to not seat myself in the living room or the kitchen in those super early days because I had just overexerted myself the first time around. And when you're doing that and overexerting and getting up and moving too much, it can actually make your recovery that much harder. All right, let's talk about boundary number 2. Manage expectations with visitors. So visitors can be overwhelming in those early postpartum days. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you just have so much going on. You are learning so much as a new parent. You're trying to navigate caring for this baby while still caring for yourself. So set a clear boundary about when they can come and how long you're comfortable with them staying. Don't be afraid to limit them to a specific time frame. Like, hey, a great time to come would be from 12 to 4 when the baby is napping, or you can come over for an hour, but then I'm going to have to nurse again. Just be specific to let them know what your expectations are for what you need during their visit. Let close family know that while you appreciate them, you're only taking visitors in small doses. Like I said, you can set a time limit on visits and give yourself permission to ask them to leave if you're feeling drained. And maybe you and your spouse can have a code of some kind so we can say, oh, hey, I think Danielle needs to go rest with the baby, so she's going to head upstairs. We'd love to have you back again next week. A common mistake to avoid in the beginning is overcommitting to hosting guests, whether you think you're ready or not. I felt very ready to see people after I had my first baby, but I clearly wasn't. I had a really hard time walking after that birth for about 6 weeks, and getting up and moving and feeling like I had to host them. It was a lot on my body, and it ended up, I think, costing me more time in recovery than if I had just allowed myself to rest. Boundary number 3. Just say no to unsolicited advice. Postpartum is a time when many people feel like they have advice to offer, but not all of that advice is welcome or even helpful. So if someone is trying to give you advice about their babies. Oftentimes someone might say something like, oh, well, this worked with my baby, or my baby never struggled with that. You can simply nod your head and move along. If you are someone that doesn't mind addressing that and confronting it, you can just say, oh, I'm so glad that worked for you, but we're going to do what works for our family. And hearing all of those different opinions can also end up feeling very overwhelming because you don't know what to listen to. It may not even be in alignment with your values. So if someone gives you unsolicited advice about, let's say, sleep training or feeding methods that don't resonate with you, kindly say, I'm sticking to my plan for now, but thank you for sharing. That's another great phrase to keep in your back pocket. And having that phrase that you're going to say to people when they offer that unsolicited advice can just help you feel so much more peaceful and confident in your own choices. Don't feel obligated to listen or follow advice just because it's offered. You are the expert on your own motherhood journey and on your baby. No two babies are the same. As much as we want to put them in a box and say that they are, they're just not. Every baby has their unique needs, circumstances, and personalities, and you will learn your baby and what your baby needs. And I just want to remind you to trust your mom instincts. Sometimes it feels like they're not there, or maybe they're developing in the beginning, but they truly are. And if I've learned nothing else in my 7 years of motherhood, it is to trust my mom gut. It is almost always right. All right, let's review those 3 boundaries to set. 1, prioritize your rest. Set the boundary in your own mind that your rest is your priority. And let people know when you are available or unavailable for visitors so that nothing takes away from your recovery time. It's okay to say no when necessary and rest whenever you can. Number 2, you can limit visitors. Set a time limit or expectations for visitors. Keep visits short and don't feel guilty about asking for help or saying no to visitors when you need quiet or time alone. There's nothing like taking that time in those early days to bond with your baby. And number 3, decline that unsolicited advice. Practice saying no thank you when people offer unsolicited advice that doesn't fit your needs or your parenting style. Trust those mom instincts and remember that you know what's best for you and your baby. I hope today's episode really empowers you to set those much needed boundaries for yourself in the postpartum period. And it's never too late to set those boundaries, whether you're home with your baby for 1 day or 6 months. It's okay to go back and rethink and reset those boundaries. It can be difficult, but it's one of the most powerful ways to protect your peace and ensure just a happier, healthier postpartum experience. And if you're having a hard time setting those boundaries and you just feel like you don't know who you are anymore or how you want to navigate this postpartum period so that you can feel like yourself again, I have a free resource for you. It's called the New Mom Reset, Simple Steps to Feel Like Yourself Again. And you can visit the link in the show notes or go to abridgetomotherhood.com/new mom. I really hope that it blesses you and helps you to just take some time to pause and think about your needs in the postpartum period. This week is super special because I have my first guest episode and it will be released this Friday. It is with my dear friend Michelle LeBlanc, who is a chef, and she is going to talk to us all about postpartum meal prep and how to make our lives easier with nourishing meals in the postpartum period. I can't wait for you to hear our conversation. I really think she offered some amazing tips as a chef, as a mom of 2, and as a doula. She brings so much experience to the table, so make sure you tune back in on Friday. Thanks so much for tuning in to the A Bridge to Motherhood podcast. I'm so glad you were here today. If you loved this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review for the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Share it with a friend or snap a screenshot and tag me on social media. If you decide to leave me a review, go to abridgetomotherhood.com/review. That link is also in the show notes so that I can send you a little gift in the mail. Your support helps other moms to find the podcast, and it truly means the world to me. Remember, your motherhood journey deserves your care and attention. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, mama, and don't worry, I'm here to help every step of the way. See you soon.